Jackie and I are very aligned with how we are, trying to raise our family with the fifth of the way and with both educating the kids, disciplining the kids, growing the kids, wanting to really, create leaders with our kids, very similar to what my parents did. And so I think that alignment helps a lot because it definitely de-stresses, takes a lot of drama out. And instead of fighting with her, we're constantly talking about, how as a team are we raising them? We still have challenges with behavior and all that kind of thing, but really attacking that together and thinking through that together.
Welcome to the Leveraging Success podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Gerhardt. Every time that we're together, I want to help you work less, make more. And through the freedom that you gain and the margin that you start to store up, you're going to be able to use that to be an incredible husband, wife, parent, and most importantly, an incredible kingdom leader, living the life mission that God put you on. I'm so excited to introduce my dear friend, Tom Dosch. Tom is here today. Tom is a prominent figure in the real estate investment and land brokerage industries. Tom is the co-founder of Ascent Investment Partners, a company he established in 2022 alongside Britton Church, Tim Dosch, and David Marshall. At Ascent, Tom plays a crucial role in implementing the company's strategic vision and overseeing the acquisition of new opportunities. But that's not all. Tom is also the co-founder of Dosch Marshall Real Estate, or DMRE, a Texas-based land brokerage firm. There, he leads the DFW office and manages day-to-day operations, focusing on sourcing and selling land tracts across the market. Now, Tom's experience in the real estate industry is extensive and impressive. Since 2012, he's been involved in over $2 billion worth of land transactions, gaining invaluable expertise in both urban redevelopment and suburban land development opportunities. Now, his track record includes notable transactions across Texas, working with major players like Hines, Trammell Crow Residential, Alliance Residential, Graystar Residential, and Mill Creek Residential. Tom has been instrumental in high-profile deals from high-rises in Houston to multifamily development tracts in various Texas cities. Before co-founding DMRE, Tom was a principal at ARA Newmark, Houston, land division, and he has a background in investment banking. Tom's a proud graduate of Texas A&M University's Mays Business School, where he earned his degree in finance with honors. He's also a licensed real estate broker. On top of all of that, his professional accomplishments, those are enormous, but Tom's a family man, married to his wife, Jackie, with whom he has 4 children and another one coming soon. He's also very committed to ministry and the kingdom, serving as a founder and board member of 100X Harvest and participating in several nonprofit boards. Tom, man, I'm so glad that we can have this conversation. Thank you for taking the time to do this with me.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Tom, your background is one where you were one of 7 children growing up. You lived in 8 different cities, all moving around while your father, Jim, was so successful in his career in oil. But you had a life of growing up all over the country. Can you say a little bit about that in terms of your background, having been a part of a big family, being homeschooled, living all over the country, and how that's affecting you and your development to who you are today?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot there, Jeff. I think that when I think about all of that you just mentioned, that was normal for me. So moving every couple of years, being in a big family, like you said, one of 7, I was the 5th. And so I've got 3 older sisters, older brother, and then 2 younger siblings. And then, being homeschooled all the way through from kindergarten all the way through high school. So I think I learned a lot from that. Again, thinking that was normal, but from being in a big family, you learn a lot about independence, hard work. My parents instilled that in us from a very young age. I learned the same thing being homeschooled, just taking ownership of my education at a really young age, and really learned a lot of what I think most people learn in college when you're meeting deadlines and schedules. I was doing all that, late in elementary school, middle school timeframe, just because, just a very different setup. And then moving that often, I learned, making new friends, change was normal, and you just kind of got to roll with the punches. And so change to me has been something I've been very open to as an adult, because I was just grew up, with that frame of mind. So those were some of the main things. And of course, the most important thing is my parents, very strong believers, instituted just a incredible love for God's word in all of us growing up. And that was part of being homeschooled, was we had a lot of extra time to focus on more biblical studies and philosophy and history, all with more of a biblical mindset and worldview. And so again, I thought that was normal too, growing up in that type of environment, and just learned so much from that when I did go off to college, I had a foundation that was just kind of well beyond a lot of my peers, because they grew up maybe, going to public school where they didn't get exposed or mentored the same way that I did by my parents and even just by my older siblings. So yeah, very fortunate with such a unique upbringing.
You've got great parents, of course. Jim and Holly are incredible people. But you and we met on a trip to Israel many years ago, and it was pre-children for you, but you were already in the thick of your career by then. And so much has already happened to you. In fact, I was just realizing you had a successful business and you had a growing family, and you already were involved in ministry all by the time you were 30. And all of that was happening so fast for you. Do you attribute some of that speed of growth and having a family and getting involved in business and then getting involved in ministry all from being in middle management as part of a family where you're right in the middle of all these kids? Was that a part of what got you to the success that you started to experience so quickly?
I think so, because my parents from a very young age, and I was the second son, but they really instilled in me that you need to be a leader. You need to think of yourself as a leader. You need to start saving for school, because being one of seven, my parents said, you're going to college, but we're not paying for it. So we want you to start working and saving. And so I remember being 5, 6 years old and having a piggy bank and thinking about, okay, this is for college, and then going and getting jobs. I think 9 or 10 was when I first started working for neighbors and doing landscaping and different jobs. And really with the mindset of, I'm doing this for my future, for college. And so just getting, professional jobs as soon as I was legally able to, and starting to work, and just having that mindset that my parents encouraged me in, that you're a leader, and they built me up and challenged me to think of myself that way. So whether that was sports, I was really involved in sports growing up, or if that was, my education with school, with, they didn't go do all my applications for me to college, or, go meet with the advisors for me. They wanted me to take ownership. So I learned a lot about ownership and hard work at a really young age. And then I got married at 21, just right out of school. And so again, when you go from being single to married and, paying for everything, I was already paying for a lot because I had worked through college, but things like insurance and, your cell phone and everything else. And it was really, I want to be independent. I want to be a man. I want to be responsible for my family and for my wife. And so I think for sure a lot of that foundation, and then just God provided such unique opportunities where I was in the right place at the right time to be able to get with the right people and have a very fast, like you said, just successful journey.
Some of that is expectations, right? I mean, Tom, you were expecting to do these things. You were thinking ahead. It wasn't as if you got to your 20s and then you had to figure out, who am I and what. You just plowed forward. You expected it. You jumped in and you started taking a lot of risks. In fact, I know part of your story was that you built a successful career, and then Tim, your brother, and David Marshall, your partners, they invited you out, which was going to be both a pay cut and a risk taking to see something grander happen. What was the calculus of that? Because it's obviously been extremely successful, but how did you get to the point where you were ready and believed this was the right move?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because that actually connects with the master's program, because my older brother, Tim, who's 8 years older, had been through the master's program in his late 20s. And so then when I was in investment banking coming out of school and thinking about, did I want to stay in investment banking and really commit to that path, or did I want to make a change? It was my dad was going through the master's program because of Tim. And one of the sessions was on career, and it was on taking the StrengthsFinder assessment and really looking at, are you using your strengths at work? And really focusing on your satisfaction is going to come in a lot of ways from being fulfilled because you enjoy and you're good at what you're doing. And so I remember reading that book, taking the assessment, and from that really felt like, the opportunity to go into real estate really played to my strengths as outlined really in that assessment. And what I was doing in kind of my next maybe 5 to 10 years of my investment banking path, I could have a successful career, but I wasn't enjoying going to work on, I was getting the Sunday blues every Sunday night, not wanting to go back. The opportunity to go into real estate, which is much more relational, where, like you said, it was much more, there's something out there, there's maybe a lot more risk, but there's something out there to go achieve and to go pursue. And if I can get there, I'm going to be in just, a pretty incredible position from a career standpoint. And so it was through a lot of prayer and then talking to both my dad and Tim to really just decide that that was the right move. And at the time, it was to go work with my brother, Tim. And I really thought and prayed through, do I want to work with family? Is that the right thing to do? I have kind of made it on my own, to start my career. Is that where I'm supposed to be? And I got comfortable with that. And it's been a huge blessing. I've been working with Tim now for, 14 years and partners for 10 years with him and David. And what I've realized in that journey is you don't do anything solely, having the right people around me, especially business partners, it's been kind of been everything. So really thankful that, that opportunity opened up when it did.
Can you help us peer into that world? Because you were saying, hey, I'm unsure about working with family and what does that look like? How are you and Tim and David managing that dynamic, and how are you leveraging each other's strengths with the business?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think that it's a very unique partnership and that all three of us bring something very different to the table. So, we're really big into assessments at our company and in our partnership. And so we've done, StrengthsFinder and Enneagram and all these different assessments. And basically the results always end up being we're opposites, but we all complement each other. And so when we're doing what we should be doing, when we're really pressing into our strengths, it's like painting the whole picture versus just, one of us being really good at one area. And I think David's been just an incredible partner because he works with two brothers. And so there's just natural conversations that happen and background that Tim and I have that goes back, a long time, all the way at the beginning. And he's been really patient with us and just worked through, the partnership when, you just wouldn't run into some of those issues or conversations when you don't have brothers involved. And then Tim's been, just as an older brother, he's been an incredible partner. And I think all of us have a strong belief in the Lord. All of us are seeking to really move the kingdom and what we do in business. We all prayed and gave our business to the Lord a long time ago and said, we really want this company and everything that comes out of it to really, grow the kingdom and be for the Lord. And so I think that kind of an undercurrent has been massive, because there's always going to be egos and there's going to be things that happen or come up. But when you can continually dial back to why we're doing this, what's really the purpose behind it. And then also really, as we worked in a partnership, realizing the value and the benefit of the others in the partnership. We've been through a lot. We've been through, several market downturns and COVID and starting different organizations together and bringing on, junior partners and that type of thing. So we just have so much history together now and so much trust. And it's definitely grown over time. I mean, I think the partnership now is so much stronger than it's ever been because we've been able to weather, a lot of kind of difficult times.
So in the master's program, we talk about originator, organizer, operator, and a hybrid of one of those three. Where do you find yourself? And is that what is driving some of the growth for you right now?
Yeah, I think that I find myself as kind of probably a hybrid of an originator and operator. And so I think that, like on some assessments, I score as a pioneer. So very, forward thinking and kind of the mentality that's like, let's go achieve and win as much as possible. And then I get complimented by Tim and David on maybe Tim's really good on the vision side, just pure, kind of origination. And David is really good on the people side. And so I think that having that has allowed us to charge ahead and think about new markets and new expansions, new business lines and service lines. But it's helpful to also have the other voice there too, that is helping question, keep things in check, and really just talk through major decisions.
I'm here with Tom Dosch. He is one of the founders of DMRE. Tom, you're able to manage not only your Dosch Marshall Real Estate, but you've added to the portfolio Ascent, and it looks like what you're doing is something that's related, but they integrate, but you're still now operating more organizations. How are you managing that as things are growing?
Yeah, I think it's really about, back to having good partners and the right people, really hiring good people to work for you. And then just what we've really tried to do by adding Ascent and adding our nonprofit, 100 Times Harvest, has been add things that are complementary. They're not completely different or outside the box. And so it creates more of a portfolio where we're working with a lot of the same people. It's just working with them maybe on a giving plan or working with them on an investment plan or a brokerage plan. But really almost just as a portfolio versus going and just doing very separate businesses. So we've been able to kind of set up an umbrella structure where we can be pretty efficient with our time in doing that.
So you've got this business platform, but I want to back up to get to 100x Harvest, which is really amazing. I want everyone to be able to hear about what you guys are doing there. But back up a little bit. Of course, you and I and Heather and Jackie, we were all introduced in Israel many years ago. And a lot of your heart and mindset has been mission minded from the beginning. In other words, you really have seen yourself that way. And so everything you're doing is oriented that way. How is that affecting the way that you run a business? And now you've got this nonprofit.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think Jackie and I have a huge passion for missions. And when we met, that was before we had kids. And so we were getting to do a little bit more travel just internationally than we've done recently because of the kids at home. But, we really, one of the reasons as a partnership, we prayed and gave our company to the Lord is we want what we do here and the success we have to really have lasting significance. That was something I took away from the master's program was, the opportunities I've been given, the way that God made me, I was going to be successful and I was seeing success and experiencing success. So it wasn't really a scarcity idea of I'm not going to be successful. It was I am going to be successful and I am, but what am I going to do with that? Like what's the purpose of that? And so one of the things that God brought was the master's program. And it was that trip to Israel. And Jackie and I had done some traveling in Africa, but we had never really thought about how do we more formally bring in missions into what we're doing beyond, our small group at church and, an occasional trip here or there and giving. And so what we did was we really prayed about it. And the concept of 100 Times Harvest really came up, which was, starting a fund, basically really very similar to what we do on the real estate brokerage side where we're selling properties. We would try to bring in opportunities with ministries, and then we would take those out to our network. We would fully capitalize all of the overhead, and we would really just try to generate funds to the kingdom. And we would bring just really exciting projects from different ministries locally and around the world that our friends in our network could connect with. Because we knew that we had been incredibly impacted with these overseas trips, but not everybody's going to get on a plane and go and see. But if we can kind of bring these opportunities to people, it can provide really just access to what God's doing around the world in a way that if you're not getting it at your church, you're probably not getting it. And in a way that you really get to see the impact that your dollar or your involvement can have. And so we started 100 Times Harvest as a way of really taking our clients in business and offering this up to them, whether or not they would be interested in giving to these organizations, just a really easy way where they could. And then we would commit to, provide feedback. It would automatically create more accountability for the ministries because these are larger gifts that we give. And then it's something that, we talk a lot about internally at our companies, DMRE and Ascent, that our profits and the success we're having is directly funneling back in to all of these different ministry initiatives, like I said, locally and all over the world.
When I think about 100x Harvest, I think about the concept that Motley Fool brought to stock investors, which is, hey, we've got a system with which to look at these things, and we can tell you here are the best of that you could be investing in or giving to the kingdom for. And so that's something that now that it runs, it allows for people to have a sense that there's a real vetting, a real tangible, well, in fact, Tom, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jim, your dad, who is the director of the ministry and the foundation, is going out in the field. He's putting his hands and feet into those ministries and connecting directly with them. to see the fruit, the outcomes, and he can really reflect back and say, yeah, this is what I'm seeing. This is what's really going on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of the way we've tried to structure it has been things we've learned over the years, giving to different organizations. And so one of the things has been make sure we go see the work that's being done and interact with them, not just here stateside when you're a lot of times dealing more with business development people, but go and actually see what they're reporting on, how are they getting to their metrics, depending on what type of ministry. But a lot of what we've worked on has been church planning. So you have ministries reporting really large numbers. So how are they getting to those metrics? And, how do we feel about that? How do we compare that to like industry standards? So we're learning all the time. But like you said, it's something where we're giving a lot of our own profits to it. And so we really care that we're using good stewardship, in what we're doing. Very similar to in a real estate deal when we're personally investing alongside our investors. We're looking to make really wise investments because we're going to lose a lot if those investments don't go well. And it's similar on the kingdom side. We feel like God has called us to look at everything we have as, we're stewards of it, not owners. And so that's a challenge that we're always facing, whether it's business or 100 times harvest.
When you treat a ministry like a business and a business like a ministry, that's really the way that these things should be operated. Unfortunately, we separate those two things out and they've got some upsides, but steep downsides. But you guys are providing that kind of capability to the ministries you work with, and you're treating DMRE, as a place with which to care for employees and help them to become who God made them to be. I mean, it's an incredible approach, and probably a portion of the success is because you're operating that way. Is that fair?
I think so. I mean, for one thing, it gives us a lot of purpose beyond just going and doing real estate deals, and it gives us a reason why we want to be excellent, and we're always looking to grow. We've always had a mindset in our partnership of we don't really need to grow. There's not really a grow for growth's sake. It's like we always have had a purpose behind why we want to grow, why we want to be more effective, why we wanted to add the investment arm, why it mattered to even, start 100 times harvest, just so that we could see greater kingdom impact. And so I think that purpose side of it, our faith, and all of us have been through the master's program, all three of us. And that's something that even with the 100 times harvest, you're kind of challenged when you finish the program, to what are you going to do now? And so David was the third to graduate. Tim did, then I did, then David did. And I remember sitting down at breakfast and just talking through ideas. And we've always loved doing things together. Like I said, finding things we can work on together more as a partnership has always been a lot more satisfying than trying to do things on our own. And so that's really where 100 times harvest was birthed. And then, like you said, we brought Dad in to run and manage it. And that's just been such a huge blessing because he's been able to, from more of a vetting and a ministry relationship standpoint, stay on top of a lot of these organizations. And him and my mom have traveled all over the world, to places that a lot of people would be, nervous to go to, but have been willing to go and spend the time and the jet lag and, the whole deal just to see these ministries. Are they kind of delivering on what they say they are? Because we're telling people that they are. And so we want to be able to, to show that they are.
If you all are interested, those who are listening or watching, you can look in the show notes, but 100 Times Harvest website is 100xharvest.org. And what I'd encourage you to do, if you look at that website, is to consider, one, you could donate to their fund, but the other part of it is to model after it. They have created a model with which perhaps many of you may be thinking, how do I get more leverage? How do we become more effective with our giving? And definitely what they have put together there is a fantastic model to be replicated. Tom, let's shift gears a little bit, because you've had all of this early success, fast success. God's providing. You're moving into family that's growing. Got a wife who's now 8 months pregnant, and Jackie, and a new one on the way. We talk about in TMP is along the lines of life mastery. And how do we make sure that the strength of our platform allows for all these things to happen? Truly, when I look at all that you're doing, I could look at that, and absent the understanding of life mastery, I'd think that guy is not sleeping and he's probably killing himself or burning something up to make this work. But Tom, because I know you and I've seen your family, I know how strong your platform is. And if we look in the news right now, here in the DFW area that you and I are both in, we look at Robert Morris, Tony Evans, Matt Chandler, and all of these great Christian leaders who are taking arrows in what's happening right now. And it's a life mastery thing. It's a platform thing. Can you talk about some of the routines? I know you've got lots of strong routines and disciplines that help you, and mindsets that help you to hold together a platform that would allow for a massively growing business, a massively growing family, an extremely effective kingdom life. You're involved in your church, all of these things. How do you do that without running out of gas?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think that another thing I learned in the master's program was saying no, and just how important that is to your success. And so really my life doesn't look that crazy. I like to stay really fit, and I like to do a lot of, even recently some pretty extreme ultra running. So I always think about it as starting with physical, and I try to be healthy. If I'm not getting sick all the time, if I'm not tired, it makes me a lot more productive. But I also don't burn the candle at both ends. And so I'm more of a morning person. I get up early. I like to, have a quiet time, whether that's reading through a book of the Bible or reading more of like a daily devotional. There's different podcasts and audiobooks that I really enjoy listening to. Those are important to me as kind of de-stressors in my life. And I love running. So running for me is a huge de-stressor that if I can start the day with a quiet time, it just really sets me up to feel really productive. And then really when the evening comes around, 5 or so o'clock, I'm trying to be home with the kids. And it's always a battle to put the phone down and not be checking, what's going on in just one of these different companies. But, really working on that and just trying to be disciplined that, some of that can wait until the next day, until more business hours. And I'm really fortunate to have Jackie as my wife, and just the support she gives that allows us to be really aligned. I was talking to somebody at lunch today about de-stresses, takes a lot of drama out. And instead of fighting with her, we're constantly talking about, how as a team are we raising them? We still have challenges with behavior and all that kind of thing, but really attacking that together and thinking through that together. And no, it's been, for me, it's been very much like that session in the master's program talking about your life as like a rocket launch, and just thinking about the different stabilizing factors of that. One of them being your fitness, and another one being your marriage. And thinking through even things like spending time learning, because when I spend time learning and reading and understanding, that also is another one of those really important kind of stabilizing factors. So that those are just some little things that I do that really work for me.
So if I caught all that, and I mean, incredible to add to all the lists that you're an ultra marathon runner, but you have disciplines, spending time in the word, running and exercising. But one of the things that caught my ear in there was that you stay on the same page with Jackie. That's a work, right? That's something that can be taken for granted. Can you talk a little bit about that teaming at all? Maybe that our listeners get to peer in and learn from, like, what does it look like for you guys to stay on the same page? What questions are you asking? What conversations are you having to try to decide, what does each one of these 4, soon to be 5 kids need for us to pour into them? How are you keeping on the same page?
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I think that, I don't know if I have any secret sauce on this, because I'm constantly just reminded that God bless me so much with Jackie, because he found somebody that's just such a perfect match. But for one thing, we've tried to spend a lot of time getting to know each other and really understanding how God wired us. And we're very opposite. I'm a very performance-driven person. She's much more relational and more of a perfectionist. And for me, it's, let's go win. It doesn't really matter how we win. We're just going to go win. She's going to want to make sure that everything is done exactly right. And even little things like that, when we think about parenting, when we think about the kids' education, it's really important just to understand where she's coming from. We had really good pre-marriage counseling and we got married really young. And I think with that, we've kind of grown up together, which has been a blessing. And then probably one of the most simple things that anybody could do that no matter, when you got married would be, we just really protect our times in the evening. And so, our kids are still young, 7 and under. And so, we're fortunate and that we've been able to kind of keep them out of a lot of extracurricular activities in the evenings as much as possible. Someday we'll be doing, more sports. But my parents had said, let's wait till you're 8 to really start a lot of these, more committed sports. That worked really well for our family. I still had siblings that played college sports, and if you're good, you're going to be able to figure it out. So saved so much time for us to have dinners as a family, spend evenings together as a family. And that's been really important for Jackie and I, and that we try to get the kids to bed at a decent time. And then that gives us time in the evenings to, talk about what's going on the day. Maybe we're strategizing on one of the kids and something that we need to institute, or maybe we're like watching a movie together. So I think that time in the evenings and really pursuing time with Jackie, still going on dates together, I really enjoy spending time with her. So that makes it easy. But, I think that protecting that time is one of the most simple things. And when I talk to a lot of other people, I think a lot of us, our schedules are so busy in the evenings, and because there's always so many things you could be doing. We really try to protect that. I don't really do any happy hours anymore or very many dinners with clients, just because there's normally a way to work around that and make it a breakfast or a lunch or a coffee meeting. And then I can be fully dialed in the evenings when I'm at home. So, and that's pretty rare in my industry. A lot of people are doing all kinds of going out and socializing. We just haven't really needed to, fortunately, because we've said more than that on the business side, we're going to be about results, and just the service that we provide. And then that's allowed us to prioritize family. And, I want to be there coaching my kids and, the other things that will evolve over time.
I mean, that's some of the secret here is that there's a faith element to this, no doubt about it, meaning that I'm trusting that what I did and the hours that I was present before I got home was enough. God's going to take care of the rest. So I put this aside. I go to be present now with my family, and there's a risk element to that. But that's something I know about you, Tom, is that you've never been immune to or push back from an opportunity to take a shot at something, play it differently. I mean, I remember early on when I first met you, I was so impressed with the fact that you decided we weren't going to have any TVs in the house, and you guys were reading, voracious readers. And you still are. Every time that I get to connect with you or Jackie, I know you guys are reading something, and we're always talking about books. But this is a part of I think the secret sauce that is starting to come out as I'm talking to you, as I'm realizing how much you protect your evenings, how you become present, have conversations, and keep in those routines. So that's a part of the sinking. Do you think that's it, or anything missing from that?
I think that's right. And I think, we talk a lot about Jackie and I just having the number of kids we're going to have, wanting to be able to then create margin to spend time, not just all of them, but with them individually too. And so it's something we've even started to try to do. Again, really thankful. I started the master's program, I think I was 24, 25. And so getting to go through that even before I had any kids, but to learn about best days and thinking about setting aside time with your children individually. What do they want to do? Spending time doing what they want to do, creating memories. And you've really emulated that, with so many of the trips you've done that you told me about with your kids. And so, we've started doing that at the level of, a 4 and a 5-year-old right now. And I can't wait to do it at, the level of the 10 and 15-year-old when they're older. I think even that, for us, the priority of our relationship, everything's going to start with our marriage for Jackie and I and our family. And then it's going to be really the relationship with the kids. You can't really be a good parent without investing in your marriage first. My parents did a really good job of instilling that in me. And of course, it really starts, like you said, with your trust in the Lord and your faith there. And so, having that time to connect and understand, what's Jackie learning? What am I learning? And then I just think there's a power in saying, hey, we're on the same team. Like, we're attacking this together. This is very similar to an organization. Like, we're chasing the same goals here. And Jackie's had to remind me at times, hey, you strategize a lot for your business. I need your help strategizing more for the family. And I've gotten better at that. But it's really helpful that she also is willing to just call me out. And then a lot of it is just being willing to say, you're exactly right. I need to strategize more. I need to be thinking about that because kids are going to grow up, they're going to be gone. And, I'm hoping they can be out and making huge impact for the kingdom if we raise them right.
All right, I'll throw you a question here. Let's see what you say, because I know, as I said, how much of a reader you are, but could you give me a book that you're reading right now that you think is important and maybe a favorite book that you would recommend?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I've been reading a lot, like you said. So I'm trying to think of one that I'm read recently that I think is important. I'll say I really enjoy reading biographies, and I'm currently working through Winston Churchill's biography. So I'm 35 hours in. I've learned from you that listening is a lot easier than reading, especially when you have young kids. So that's another secret. It's just listen. But really enjoying that biography on Winston Churchill. I think it's important to understand history. And that's something I've always been really interested in is history. And so, I read one on George Washington that was incredible. As far as though just a book that I really enjoy, trying to think what that would be.
I knew this would be a question like, which is your favorite child or something,
Yeah, favorite movie or something. That's hard. It's hard. Yeah. But I may have to double back on that. Give me a second to think about it.
I know that one of the books that you and Jackie were reading recently, Revolutionary Parenting, by George Barna, Barna Group, fantastic book, a great couples read. And so, that process of reading and reading with your spouse, one of the ones that I know that both of us read as couples was How to Win a Heart by Chad Johnson. Great book. But all of those things, when you get to read something with your spouse, you get to absorb, comprehend, and then shape thinking together rather than just having, you're tracking down this line, I'm tracking down that line, but doing some things like that. I mean, something that TV shows and movies just can't offer to you, especially when you're reading something historical or something by the Barna Group or a Randy Alcorn book, or one of those books are just going to be great ways to start to shape our lives and hearts together while we read.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'll say, not that this is my top book, but a great book that I read not too long ago was Imagine Heaven, which was stories of people that had near-death experiences, but just I don't think enough about heaven. And in scripture, it calls us to all the time that we need to set our minds on things above and to really think about heaven. And Randy Alcorn, of course, has written some great books on heaven. But yeah, this book was stories. I love reading stories and just a lot of really interesting stories about thinking about, the afterlife. So that one was powerful. And then the ones you mentioned, probably one of the most interesting books is the book that you mentioned a second ago on marriage. I'm trying to remember the name now.
How to Win a Heart. Yeah, How to Win a Heart.
Such a good book. Very entertaining. Loved it. So I would recommend that one highly for a marriage book.
Well, I know that you get to look at a lot of different ministries with 100 Times Harvest. You get to see in every subject matter, best of, favorites. So what's got you guys' heart, your passion right now? I bet you could tell me, best of Middle East, best of Asia, best of sex trafficking, ... What's got you guys passionate or got the most of your energy right now that you're excited about in the ministry space?
Yeah, right now, and it's not too dissimilar from when we started 100 Times Harvest, but very evangelism focused and church planning. I think that there's a huge need for, pastoral training globally. It's anywhere from 80 to 90% international pastors have no theological training. And so there's actually several different organizations we're working with in different parts of the world with 100 Times Harvest that are providing that, both the church planning aspect and then also the pastoral training. And, recently I met with a kind of a smaller seminary here in DFW, but also just thinking about pastoral training here in the US, because so many of our seminaries have gotten more and more liberalized. And so just thinking about kind of good Bible-based, conservative, degrees. And so I think, the God's word is so powerful that when it goes out, there's incredible results. And so those are areas that we've just found incredible partners across the world to work with. And then we, like you said, there's a lot of other types of organizations that, whether that's orphan care or sex trafficking, that we're passionate about. And we're always looking and trying to meet new organizations because there's so much work to be done, but we've been very blessed with the partners that have, we've been able to come alongside.
Well, Tom, I want to commend you so much for the way that you're living out loud. So many people compartmentalize a business life, a family life, and a kingdom life, and never shall these three things cross. But you aren't a different person in all three of those realms. You're really an integrated leader in all those realms, and imagining that God's got a lot for you. So tell me, if everything goes well, throw you this question, imagining at the end, what would you like your legacy to be? What would you want said about you in the end that Tom Dosch was?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny because you spend so much time thinking about business success just naturally, since we have our careers. But ultimately, something on my tombstone, it would really be more about a godly man and then a godly husband and father. I mean, those are the things. That's what I'm constantly having to just kind of fight against my flesh to remember, like, what are the real priorities, and those are really the real priorities.
Tom, man, I'm so grateful that we got to spend this time together. Your story helps to show that these concepts applied, they work. We've got lots of people that are like you in our community of master's program members and alumni. So grateful to be able to be your friend and hear your story and live with you through this story and seeing all that God is and will do through you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the opportunity and for all these. I mean, I'm encouraged by listening to these podcasts. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And to you who are listening, thanks for joining another episode of Leveraging Success. It's an opportunity that we're about trying to figure out what are the ways with which to take the success that God's given us in our business world and leverage that for freedom's sake, and having that freedom to be able to be incredible as parents and as kingdom leaders. Hey, I want you to continue on this journey with me. So follow the podcast, subscribe on YouTube. And to those of you who are on LinkedIn, you get this first. We release this live so that you're seeing the recordings that come out later for those who are subscribing. But make a comment on LinkedIn, connect to Tom. And if you're looking for references to 100 Times Harvest, to DMRE, to Ascent, all of those links are going to be in the show notes and on this live broadcast. And I'm also interested in your feedback. So leave me a comment or email me, jeff@leveragingsuccesspodcast.com. I'd love to know what you think. Get your feedback and have an opportunity to respond and address some of your questions live here. I'm so glad that you've been with me and Tom today. We're talking about how do we get leverage by working less, making more, and taking that gain to be incredible and have an impactful life that will matter forever. I'm your host, Jeff Gerhardt, here with my good friend, Tom Dosch. Until next time, God bless you.